All right, welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart. Your doc, Columbus Batiste, here with you again. And I'll tell you, I'm excited. I say that all the time, don't I? I always say I'm excited. But I have to tell you, not only is it Women's Health Month, and I love women, right? I have a mother, I have a daughter, I have a wife, I have sisters. I love women. But it's also Physical Fitness Month. And so I was scratching my brain, scratch out all my hair, trying to figure out like, who can I bring on? Who possibly can I bring on that really exudes all the components of what we want to talk about today? And I will tell you, I have a special guest for you today. I have a special guest. And as a result of this special guest, I need to do something a little different and a little special, right? So I want to introduce to you Dr. Daphne Bascom, right? So she's the Chief Operating Officer of the Vegan Gym. She previously served as Vice President of Population Health for St. Luke's Health System in Kansas City. She has held senior positions for the YMCA of Greater Kansas City, Cerner Corporation, and Cleveland Clinic Health Systems, contributing to clinical integration and health program development. So she's a powerhouse, right? That right there tells you she is a medical genius. Now, Dr. Bascom completed her medical training at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center and has a PhD in physiological sciences at the University of Oxford. Oxford, y'all. We're talking about Oxford. And so that she didn't stop there. Why I'm so excited about this young lady is because she said, you know what? I don't believe in periods. I don't believe that just because I had obtained my MD, that's enough. I'm gonna get a PhD. She said, just because I'm a surgeon and I practice inside the OR, that's not enough. I'm gonna go into healthcare delivery. She said, put a comma there. And she said, you know what? That's not enough. I'm now going to transform and bring this to the community. And that wasn't enough. So then now she has entered the realm of wellness and really tackling the burden of transforming only her own life, but also the lives of others in terms of their health outcomes. And so let me tell you, man, when this powerhouse, this phenomenal woman says, I'm in great shape, she made me this morning start doing some push-ups. I had to get down with it and start making sure I got my workout in. Look at this young lady. She is exuding what we talk about when it comes to physical fitness and excellence. And so I want you all to welcome to the stage with me, okay? None other than Dr. Daphne Bascom. All right. Welcome. How are
Thank you.
you?
I'm doing great. I'm very embarrassed after that introduction. So thank you for your kindness and generosity. I'm blessed to do
Oh,
what I do.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you, well, you clearly are a blessing to others, right? So most of us enter into this space because we have a strong desire to help others.
Yes.
And many physicians, when we're in this space, we lose our passion. How have you gone? Tell us about your journey. I gave a brief overview of things, but that journey that's led you towards a new passion, tell us about that a bit.
Oh, that's a long journey.
Yeah.
I think if I can encapsulate the why, and it really resonated with me as I was reading the introduction to your book. It was my losing my parents and watching my parents go through their own health journey. And, so going through, I trained as a physician, head and neck surgeon, and you feel as a surgeon that you can fix anything. Um, but you can't fix a problem when it's too far gone. So I lost my mom to COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. I lost my dad to complications from prostate cancer. And my dad used to say to me, as I shepherded them through their health journey, what do people do if they don't have a you?
Hmm.
And which was interesting because navigating healthcare is a challenge, even when
It is.
you're in our position. But then I started questioning myself as to what could I have done to keep them here longer?
Yes.
Um, so it forced me to back up and really realize that I went into medicine to keep people healthy.
Yeah.
Um, so went full circle from I love using my hands. I love fixing things. I still think the OR is the most amazing place in the world, but I'd rather keep people out the OR.
Yes. Wow. 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 You know, I've said in many different venues the fact that everyone has an origin story.
Mhm.
They have something that really triggers them into their journey of life. And I think the question is how we use the resiliency that's instilled in us to respond to those challenges and take and go forward. And so I mean, I think one, I applaud you for it, and I it resonates with me for obvious reasons, as you alluded to in terms of with the book and sharing my story in a very similar fashion. And you I'll tell you, I'm glad to be on this journey with you.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be on this journey with you and about touching lives and about making transformations and everything like that. So that's huge. So I mean, okay, head and neck surgeon
Uh-huh.
to part-time bodybuilder, fitness trainer. I mean, have you always been into fitness? Because I'll tell you, what people a lot of times say, right? They'll say, I bet she was always fit. I bet she always ate healthy. And so I'm not sure. Have you always been this way, or is this something that evolved? And I think both aspects bring something powerful to the table, either a long history or either a new history of it.
Columbus, I would say it is a little bit of both. So I knew growing up, I ran track in high school. Um, I stopped really becoming, I would say, participating in fitness during college, and then completely went off the rails in medical school
Yes.
because life took over. And I will tell you, I was an omnivore. So I remember eating whatever was available. Sometimes you would, take things out of the patient's kitchen, the graham crackers, the
Yes.
juices. As a resident, you ate whatever free food was available because it was free, number one. And number two, you didn't know where your next meal was going to come from or when it would come from.
Yes.
So up until probably my 40s, till around my 40th birthday, I was not healthy. Um, I, occasionally went to the gym and was the cardio queen every now and then and thought I was doing some things to keep myself fit, but I was eating processed foods, I was drinking alcohol, I was frequently traveling and not eating well. I mean, to the point where there were some hotels that after I would check in, they would almost, can I send you up your regular meal? Because I always got the same thing.
Yeah.
So no, it really became, things culminated when I turned 40, got divorced, realized that I was a little bit overweight, a little bit unhealthy, and needed to get my act together.
Hmm. Wow, wow. I mean, it's amazing how, I mean, obviously that story resonates with me from a standpoint of the medical training and just this slow buildup of what ends up happening in many instances. But I think the key thing is, once again, is that we have these points of conflict that are inserted in our lives, right? And where we can either deflect or redirect our attention and go down a pathway that can help us improve, or we
Correct.
can go down a pathway that goes downhill and just really leads to destruction that's there. And so, I mean, what was in you? I mean, how did you find the realm of plant-based nutrition? I mean, as a surgeon, as an omnivore,
Mhm.
what led you towards a plant-based whole food lifestyle?
That was, I don't wanna say luck, but I think
Mhm.
there was a combination of needing to understand what health really meant. So even when I started, I got into physique competitions at the age of 40. So I was a late bloomer. And at the time, even then, I was the competitor that had the chicken, the fish, the broccoli. That was generally what my nutrition was. When I started working at Cerner and then with the YMCA and started understanding about what we put in our body fuels us. Food is fuel, but food is also information. And
Yes.
helping our employees understand what they could do to keep themselves healthy, especially on the road, And then working with the why and seeing communities and understanding that they didn't have the knowledge about basic nutrition and basic movement that would allow them to become healthy and stay healthy. So while I was at the Y was when I first got introduced to the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And
Mm.
when I went to the first ACLM meeting, I was just like, oh my gosh, these are my people. Um, and
Wait,
after,
wait, 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 wait. So you were at the YMCA
uh-huh,
and you got introduced to American College of Lifestyle Medicine?
I
Tell me
did.
about that. Tell me about that relationship. I mean, that doesn't just that's not is that standard? I don't know. So educate me. Is ACLM at every YMCA? They have information?
Mm, no, not necessarily.
Mhm.
So the YMCA nationally is probably the largest deliverer of population health in my perspective because they're in every community. They're a trusted resource. They deliver health programs. At the time, it was when we were really starting to launch the diabetes prevention program. So getting involved with DPP,
Yeah.
we were doing the blood pressure self monitoring program. So the Y had shifted to not just a gym and swim, but as a safe, trusted place to deliver preventative health care. And when you start to talk about partnering with healthcare systems as lifestyle medicine started evolving and organizations like in Indiana and Pittsburgh were looking for partners to community centers where they could deliver programming related to chronic disease prevention. That's where ACLM and the Y had a synergy. And that's how we became introduced.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I know I interrupted you with that transition from but I just had to I mean, because when you talked about a little bit of luck, I think that, things happened in a particular place that you had to, there's an
Yeah.
old saying that says opportunity favors a prepared mind, that you were prepared in a certain aspect to receive the information and to approach because things had set up in that particular sequence. But so continue on your journey towards plant-based vegan lifestyle from being a surgeon.
So it was ACLM. At one of the ACLM meetings, James Wilkes actually did a pre-screening of the Game Changers. I
Yes.
don't know if you were at that meeting, but after seeing that, I had already cut out dairy because dairy didn't disagree with me. And as we learn now, dairy probably doesn't disagree with most of us. Um, but after seeing the pre-screening of the Game Changers, I went down the rabbit hole and realized that one, I was a little pissed that I had never learned this before.
Yes.
Two, when I changed my lifestyle and started eating plant-based, I felt amazing. I mean, I could train harder, I recovered faster. All of the anecdotes that you hear, they're real. And after that, I just became, I mean, I wanted to share it with everybody, and so started infusing it in everything I did.
Oh, that's incredible. I love it. I love it. Hey, that's powerful. I mean, have you ever told James that story, your story,
I haven't.
and the domino effect of what's happened? I mean, I think this is what's so powerful about the seeds that are planted, and that goes for everyone out there. I mean, just when you lead by example, when you learn things and the changes that you begin to make, you may not actually see the results of it. So James hasn't seen the results of what his movie has done to Daphne,
Huge.
but it's had a huge impact and changed the trajectory of her career in her life. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's powerful stuff. I love it. I love it. So, it is Women's Health Month and
Mhm,
it is Physical Fitness Month. And, I
mhm.
think I always kind of describe, taking care of your body, it's three important components. It's how you feed your body, how you move your body, and how you rest your body are
Correct.
core components that play a role there. And so when we look at women's health, what are some of the top things that you see are impacting women? And let's look at the postmenopausal women, right? So across the spectrum, but I think I have a burden as my mom is turning 89. I can't mention the age of my wife, and my daughter is is 19. I don't listen. I may, as we say, I'm not stupid now. I'm not mentioning her
No,
age
no, that's
without her
okay.
approval at all. But we understand that menopause can hold a significant challenge at times.
You're correct. And so I would say women's health goes along with plant-based nutrition, which is something that we are not educated around. So Columbus, I have a framework similar to yours that I've developed and I use as part of coaching, and I call it the 3 M's, where we talk about meals, so what you put in your body, how you move your body, what your mindset is,
Mhm.
sleep, stress, and social connection. So the 3 for the M and then the 3 for the S. I think many women, one, don't understand that menopause is not a disease. So if you look at the
Mhm.
natural history of a women's life cycle, we menstruate, that's normal. We go through maternity, we have babies, that's normal. But most of our education stops there. You know, we learn about our bodies as we're going through menarche. We learn about our bodies as we're bearing children, but no one really educates you for your late 40s, your 50s, and beyond. And more importantly, they don't tell you that that foundation is set in your 20s and 30s.
Mm.
So we're, right now we actually started at the vegan gym a program called Mastering Menopause. And the goal is to empower women, whether you're in your 30s or whether in your 90s, with knowledge. Because I think women need to understand that nutrition is key and core to preparing themselves to be healthy postmenopause. Movement is vital. I mean, muscle is magic. And I know that a lot of women are worried if they lift heavy, they're going to get too muscly. I will tell you it's not possible. I've been trying for years, but helping women understand that movement and muscle are key. And
Muscle
then
is magic. I love
muscle
that.
is magic. It
Muscle
is.
is magic. Hashtag that, guys out there. Muscle is magic.
And then probably the third point is dealing with your stress and mindset,
Mm.
which I
Yes.
also don't think we're taught or given space to vocalize in a way that is helpful until now.
Mm. But let's go back for a second. I mean, you said something that I think that's profound that people don't get out there. Menopause is not a disease.
Mm.
Menopause is not a disease. And you alluded to, and I want to tease this out a bit more because I think this is so important, is that essentially what you described is that our habits of what we do, our lifestyle in our teens, our 20s, our 30s, it lays the foundation for our journey in the latter stages of our life for women and for men, but specifically looking at women and
Mhm.
how they deal with and how they, I guess, respond to the changes, the natural changes of menopause.
Mhm.
Is that a correct
That is
assessment?
correct, 100%.
Hmm. So what are
Be
some of the things? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go on.
No, I was just curious. So what are some of the transformations, the normal ebb and flow that happens in menopause? So we know there's a hormonal shift, and
Mhm.
we know that perhaps as a result of the hormonal shift, it may predispose to other health issues.
Mhm.
So let's dig into that a little bit.
So, for anyone listening, just to quickly recap the physiology, which is beautiful, um, perimenopause, or the period of time when your hormones start to change. So a natural part of life is that our ovaries go through a normal senescence. And so we stop producing, we only have a fixed number of eggs that we're going to release every year, every cycle. And over time in your 30s, mid 30s to 40s, what women will start to experience are fluctuations in their estrogen, estradiol, which is the primary hormone released by the ovaries, and then also by progesterone. And those fluctuations are correlated with some of the symptoms that some women manifest, and it's not every woman. And that is what happens during perimenopause. Menopause per se is that it's actually a defined period of time. So 12 months after your last menstrual cycle, you are defined as being in menopause. And the rest of your life after that is postmenopause. But the primary hormonal change that most people equate with menopause is that decline in estrogen, estradiol, and that decline in progesterone. And the reason that's important is that estrogen is anti-inflammatory. Estrogen is protective of your heart, it's protective of your brain, and it's one of the hormones that helps you build bone. So when you think about, my goal is to help women age gracefully, to age in place, to age without frailty, which means muscle, brain, and bone. So in the course, I was teaching a session of menopause mastery last week, and I said, we're going to talk about your beats, your heart, your brain, your bones, and your besties. Those 4 Bs really encapsulate a lot of what women need to focus on during their midlife journey.
Oh, I think I love it. I love it. And I love it because, stress is something, it's such a tremendous impact. And I always say, I believe that women are under the most burden. And so this is speaking as a man, right? So not only there's just so many social constructs in terms of what a woman is supposed to be, how she is supposed to look. And, you think from a sports analogy, one of the greatest travesties when it comes to great athletes is that they're compared not to their contemporaries, but to their former selves. They're compared to their greatness before, and whether or not they were as great as they were before. And that's almost the scenario with women. You're compared to your former self in terms of looks, in terms of athleticism, in terms of other aspects, as opposed to where you're being the best version of yourself in that moment. And I think that lends itself to a great degree of stress, as well as being the binder for many families, for childbearing years, the responsibility for relationships, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all those things. Even the old adage, right? I mean, it's always said, oh, I have a daughter, so she's going to take care of me when I'm older.
Right.
That's not even put on my son. This old saying, it's like, oh, have a daughter, she's going to take care of you when she's older. Before she's even of age, I'm putting this burden that she solely is responsible for my health and well-being. That's an added stressor that's there just immediately. So I think stress is important. It's such an important thing.
And you've talked about it on your show since the beginning. And I think I've been following you since you first launched. And I mean, we have used stress. There are good stressors in life, the things that make you excited, the things that, want you to be better than you are, but the distress can be high. And I'm not certain women always feel comfortable saying that there is distress in their lives, whether it's how do I internalize the physical changes? I'm getting gray hair. During menopause, we know that there is, you may call it the menopause middle, or some of the other physiologic changes that occur as women go through midlife, where you may have been stick thin, you could eat whatever you wanted, and then something happens. And you're like, I didn't do anything different, but my body is not treating me the way it was. My mind is not responding the way it was. I'm not sleeping the way I used to. And so in addition to the stress of being mom, being daughter, being the executive, being the caregiver, you now have all of these bodily changes that you're trying to navigate. And that's a lot of cognitive load.
It is. And that stress feeds into it. So as the stress hormones kind of rage that are there, it increases the fat deposition inside the visceral organs, or that abdominal area that's there, which, as we've spoken about before on this show and many other forums, is the fact that visceral, or that organ surrounding fat, is the one that's most metabolically active, that lends itself towards disease. There's challenges, and then not to mention the basic one, right? That stress equals dessert spelled backwards. So what do people kind of turn to? You turn to all those things that comfort us, that we think are going to alleviate the stress in that moment, but don't add to our resiliency.
Yeah.
No, that's powerful. So, okay. So postmenopausal, we understand there's a higher risk of osteoporosis. We understand that there's muscle loss, which happens to all of us as we age, is sarcopenia. We understand the rates and risk of heart disease, hypertension, coronary artery disease, et cetera, that are there, that rise as women's hormones shift, and for men too as well, that we see those things. So the power of, for just a moment, and then we'll transition over to physical fitness. But so nutrition, obviously, of these things, how can a whole food plant base ameliorate some of this and help lay the foundation for an improved health in your 60s, 70s, and 80s and beyond?
So first thing I'd like to share is that it's never too late to make a change. So even if I'm hoping that anyone who's listening who's in their 20s and 30s, that adding more plants to your plate is something that you can be thinking of. But if you're in your 80s and 90s, you can still make changes. A plant-based, if you may be vegan, if that also aligns with your ethics, but if you are plant forward, plant-based, plant positive, we know that there are cardioprotective effects of having plant-based nutrition. There are definite benefits from an overall, there's not a single bodily system that doesn't benefit from eating more fiber, from having your legumes, your nuts, your seeds, your fruits. Plant-based nutrition is the most healthful way to eat. And whether you're looking at the studies from Dr. Ornish, and when I was actually looking at this back to when he first started publishing, and actually saw a publication of his that Dr. Greger had done some research on. So the two of them together, along with the Esselstyns, they've been demonstrating the benefits of plant-based nutrition for heart health, a plant-based nutrition for bone health, a plant-based nutrition for brain health.
Yes.
It's all encompassing. So there's no reason not to eat plants, but there are many reasons why we don't want to do dairy, why we want to reduce our intake of animal proteins, because we also know that there are adverse health effects of having dairy and animal protein in your diet.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you look at just the hormones from the animals that are ingested. We look at the toxins. We look at the epidemiologic studies that have told us about the burden of disease, especially with red and processed meats, the inflammatory markers that do not decrease by transitioning over to what is perceived as better meats and chicken and turkey, that we still have elevated levels of C-reactive protein, interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor, and that even now growing research tells us that despite some of the prior epidemiologic studies regarding fish, that we understand the microplastics, we understand the toxins from mercury, that these things can play a significant role. So, I mean, one of the things I oftentimes will kind of shift folks towards when it comes to nutrition is, what are you eating for your health? And focusing on that. And I'll never forget, I had this wonderful patient. I don't see patients in a clinic any longer, but just only in the cath lab. But, we were talking, and everyone's different. And that's what I loved about what you gave the entire spectrum of plant forward, plant dominant, of every % of improvement is an improvement towards your long-term health, and that cumulative change. So I told this young lady, I said, you know what, just focus on what you are eating for your health. I said, don't beat yourself up, forgive yourself, love yourself. I said, and just focus on what you are doing well and what you are going to eat for your health every single meal, every single day. And she started doing that. And she talked about how she had lost weight and how she wasn't perfect, but she was on this journey and was improving. And I think that speaks to the mindset, that mindfulness, that perspective on life that you talked about, which I think is important. And there's studies even within cardiology that speak to our positive mindset and what that does for our cardiovascular health and outcomes. In other words, that self-talk, and we were talking about that on the pre-show. Right? We all have a level of self-doubt and imposter syndrome and this happens to no matter how quote unquote accomplished you are, you still have levels of that. And we all have to work on that to stop it, right?
My Columbus mindset is, whether you're talking about a growth mindset, a possible mindset, mindset is part, which is why I included it in the 3 M's.
Yes.
It has to be a focus, and it has to be a focus for women, because you also, one thing I've learned of myself and with a lot of women that I'm blessed to work with, we're also perfectionists. And there can be a very black and white approach to, I either do it perfect or I don't do it at all, as opposed to what you just said, which is 1% better. If you start to look at 1% better per year over time, that's huge. And so I'm not always telling people you have to remove things, but if you add more plants, not only will that contribute to all of your, the total physiology, but even data from Barnard Medical Center around the benefits of soy for reducing or maybe even eliminating some of the hot flashes that occur as women go through perimenopause and menopause. That's food. That's phytoestrogens. Those are things that you don't have to take a pill. You don't need a procedure. You can feed your body, and with it, you're getting fiber and all of the other beautiful nutrients that come with it.
I love it. I love it. And I think that's huge. I was just thinking of the same thing in terms of that, the study that looked at postmenopausal symptoms, which can be quite a bit of disruptive inside of a person's life. But, one of the things when we look at this, when we get the power of nutrition, I think physical fitness is so huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. I mean, I'm speaking to the bodybuilder right now. So tell us about some of the benefits, the power of physical fitness, not only in the mindset and dealing with stress. Let's start first with stress. How can physical fitness really impact stress, perceived stress, and real stress?
I want to make sure that when we think about physical fitness, I also want to call it movement, because it could be, I'm not saying that you have to go to the gym. You can be walking, you can be standing on one leg while you're brushing your teeth. But physical fitness movement is known to, it has multiple positive cognitive benefits in terms of reducing stress, helping elevate mood, reducing anxiety, depression. So from a brain health perspective, movement is good. And combine that with being out in nature. So going on a 10-minute walk in the morning before dinner, you're getting your sunshine, you're getting exposed to the elements. There are real data underlying the benefits of moving in nature. I think it's important for women's health for many reasons. One, that movement will help you maintain your muscle. So we know that there's going to be, for both men and women, it's probably like a 3 to 6% decline in muscle mass year over year after age 30. And what you don't want to do, what I don't want women to become, are older and frail, both from a muscular perspective and a skeletal perspective. So maintaining your movement, one, not only does it help your mind in terms of clarity, removing some anxiety, depression, allowing you, I actually find it's a great place to meditate. But if you can add that to maybe doing some resistance training, and that could be as easy as when you're walking outdoors, doing some bench squats, because tying physical fitness, tying movement to function, you want to be able to get off the potty. You want to be able to get out the chair. You want to be able, putting something in the cupboard in the kitchen, or putting your suitcase, that's the one I like to use, in the overhead compartment. That's like doing an overhead press. Getting off the bed, getting off the chair, that's like doing a squat. All of the major movements that we like to teach in terms of physical fitness resistance training also equate to function. And retaining your function, retaining your strength is one of the key benefits of continuing to move through your midlife. So that's one thing, your strength, your flexibility, It will reduce your risk of falls because you're also working on your proprioception, you're working on your balance. And we know that one of the key sources of morbidity or mortality for women as they get older is that broken hip, or you fall and you break a wrist. These are all things that are preventable through a combination of what you put in your body and how you move your body and how you recover.
Love it. Love it. Spoken beautifully. I mean, there's so much power that's there in just in that stress reduction. I love when you talk about walking in nature. I mean, so I talk about going out, and I like to, whenever I get a chance, to go out in the sunlight for just a
Yes.
few moments, because what we know that it does, it helps you sleep better as it's resetting. Yeah, right. The melanocytes and so forth in your
Yep.
eye, and helping to trigger that. Not only that, it actually helps release the stores of nitric oxide contained in the skin that help lower the blood pressure. And then when we look at the components of the forest walking or forest bathing
Forest
and
bathing.
out in nature, when we're there, you may say, well, doc, you guys are living out there that doctor life. I don't have nature all around me. If you have a park that you can go to and
Right.
walk, if there's a green patch that's there, when you're out there, I challenge you. See if you get mental clarity. See if all of a sudden you start to be innovative in your ideas. I always say I go for a walk to kind of decompress, but my mind actually triggers more when I go for a walk. I start getting 1,000 ideas probably about
Mhm.
10 minutes in. And and I have to stop myself and just say, okay, just relax and watch the clouds, let the mind settle down, because I get a level of clarity. As the stress reduces, my ability to kind of foresee the horizon begins to improve there. Um, I think that's a huge component when it comes to stress, which we're all under, right? Is just what tools can we employ to help diminish that stress? So okay, so we're gonna get out there. We get the power of resistance training too, as well.
Mhm.
It's going to help with our bones and help strengthen our bones and help in terms of our insulin sensitivity, lower our blood pressure. But let me ask you this: what about for the health outcomes? What about for diabetes and
Yeah.
exercise? You talked about the
Yeah.
diabetes prevention study and so forth initiative, and diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease and cancer, as it relates to all the things that all of us, especially women, are high in terms of risk of having.
So I think that goes back to muscle is magic.
Mm,
The,
muscles
the
magic.
chronic disease, the root, this is Daphne talking, the root of chronic disease is inflammation. Number one, we know it's a common factor across all of the chronic diseases that you just talked about. But the other commonality is lifestyle. And whether it's your nutrition, whether it's your exercise or lack thereof, whether it's your sleep, which is also a contributor to your overall health and well being, um, we need to tackle all three of those. So, movement, one of the things I loved about in the diabetes prevention program has its good and its bad. We know that from a national perspective, it has struggled. But if we also look at and I'm about to go on a rant, the number of Americans, number of African Americans that are either hypertensive, pre-diabetic, movement can help with all of that. A Going out and walking 15, 20 minutes a day, it will increase your insulin sensitivity, which means post meal, postprandial, it may be able to move some of that blood sugar out of your circulation into your muscle cells. So going for a short walk after meals is helpful. We know the diabetes prevention program was aimed at individuals with pre-diabetes, knowing that if we can get them to lose a certain percentage of their body weight by keeping them in motion, by changing what they're putting in their body, we can reduce the risk that they move on to develop type 2 diabetes. But movement is good because muscle is one of the main reservoirs where you can make your body more insulin sensitive. You are also, the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism. So some of those excess calories that we may eat occasionally, just by elevating your total daily energy expenditure through movement and having more muscle, you have a little bit more leeway to have a few extra calories. But it's, you know, it's just a good way for you to help reduce your blood pressure, stay cardiovascularly healthy, stay metabolically healthy. So reduce your risk of cardiometabolic disease, because I tend to tie those two together. But the movement is also good for your joints, your bones. I mean, there's nothing I can think of negative about a well-structured program of movement plus or minus resistance training.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That, I mean, that's powerful right there. It is indeed a pill that you can take in the form of movement that
Every
is
day.
going to affect everything, your immune system, your ability to fight
Yes,
infection too, as well, stress, diabetes, high blood pressure. I always tell people it's a cheat code. When you go ahead and you're diabetic, it's a cheat code. Just walk to the 5 minutes. So studies at first they showed 15 minutes. Now up to as little as 2 minutes can help improve your blood sugar sensitivity, your insulin sensitivity rather, to help lower your blood sugar. And so there's power that's there. So I want to encourage everyone that this is a tool. But here's one of the things that I think is important to understand, right? Is that it's a keystone habit.
it
It's a
is.
keystone habit, which means it's a foundational piece that you can build other habits upon. You know, I love a study that kind of looked at that when we get engaged, it increases our tenacity, or the mid anterior cingulate cortex, a portion of the brain that's been associated with our tenacity or our persistence to a task. And the more active we're engaged in doing physical activity, the more that grows, that area of the brain grows, which means it's a reflection of what we've already identified, is that when you start to move more, you start to feel better, you start to eat better, you start to
Mhm.
kind of be a little bit more organized. And so it becomes this domino effect that can transform your life. So powerful, so powerful.
And it ties back to mindset because it
Yes.
becomes who you are. I am someone who moves every day. I am someone who eats healthfully. I choose to, and I actually had a client texting me earlier about, you know, she was saying that she continues to make the right choices despite the resistance, because not
Mm,
everyone around you may feel that those are, and right isn't a word, the word I wanted to use. I choose to be a person who has these habits and adopts these elements of lifestyle to support my health. You know, we going back to some of the physiology, walking outside, getting some vitamin D is good. You know, the other things that are important from a women's health perspective related to nutrition, having those foods with your calcium, making sure you're getting your iron, your omega 3s. Those are
yes,
things you don't need fish to get omega 3s. The fish is just the middle person. You
that's
can
right.
eat algal based sources of omega 3s. You can have your flax, your chia. So, all of the micronutrients that are also important for a holistic health, you get from plant-based nutrition, you get from moving in the outside space, and it, you know, the synergy cannot be denied.
Yes, 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 yes. No, there's so much power inside of it. It's just incredible. One I stumbled upon a book years ago called Get Up. I don't know if you've ever read that book.
Mhm.
And it's about basically non-exercise activity thermogenesis
Uh-huh.
and just the power of movement of when we think of, and you said this, being physically active could be just everyday things. It could be the way that you kind of move and pace as you walk on, you're talking on the phone. It can be the amount of steps. And this is what I meant to ask you. How many steps do you get inside of an average day
So
when
I
you're
I
not traveling?
I have a walking treadmill. So I have a walking pad. I try to get a minimum of 10,000, which I usually hit. My habit is I start my day on my walking pad. I usually walk until about noon. I'm blessed to work from home, and so I routinely get 15 to 20,000 steps.
Oh, I love it. I love. Now, did you guys hear that? 15 to 20,000 steps. That's incredible, Right. So, we've looked at, there's all sorts of studies that have looked at, is it 5,000? Is it 7,000? Is it 10,000? And we know probably there starts to be improvement in the 5 to 7,500 range that's there. But the reason why I wanted to bring that out is that movement is key. I don't want you guys to miss what Dr. Bascom said, what Daphne said, is the fact that we can say, oh, yeah, I did my half-hour workout, right? So
No,
I'm going to add up to my week. Well, what about the other 23 and a half hours out of the
exactly.
day?
Yep.
Are you moving intentionally? Are you purposeful? Are you going to the gym and taking the escalator and elevator? Are you
Yes.
driving around the parking lot searching for the closest parking spot? Or are you choosing to park further away and
Yeah.
walk in?
Yeah.
All those things are additive. Remember the law of 1%. Small things add up to a lot. And that's what NEAT is about. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis is what is your basic metabolic movement or basic movement template like in your life? Are you tending to walk upstairs, take your time, move around, pace? That portends itself to weight loss, to decrease
Mhm.
inflammation and improvement that's there. And I just wanted to tease that out a little bit for those who say, well, I have orthopedic issues or I have this and I can't.
You
Stop
can.
with can't. What can you do?
Yes.
What can you do? Don't focus on what you can't do. That mindset is important, right? I may not be able to do what she may crush me in my push-ups. I told you at the beginning, I saw her and I was like, I gotta do my push-ups. She may crush me at push-ups and embarrass me and take my soul, right? That may happen. But guess what? I can say, Columbus, you did the best you could today. Let's see what you can do tomorrow. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. No, that's good.
Comparison is a thief of joy.
It
You
is.
you are your only benchmark,
That's
and
right.
I completely agree with you. And the barrier should be so. Something that I did when I was working at the hospital, when I was working at Cerner, is walking meetings. So the fact that you're at work 8, 10, 12 hours a day shouldn't be a barrier for you to get in those extra steps. If you have to go to the ladies' room, pick the ladies' room, the next floor down, rather than the one that's right next to you. Or if you're trying to get in your 80 to 100 ounces of water a day, you will get steps because you're going to have to go. So there are lots of ways you can incorporate movement into your day. You may not have a walking desk, but before I had a walking desk, I got some telephone books. I propped up my laptop and I stood because
Yes.
it was just better for my back, my joints, my mind. Be creative. You cannot be constrained. If you have that possible mindset, you will find a way to include the food, include the movement, and then we can talk about sleep and stress because I think those are important for women's health too.
Yes.
But it's always possible.
Yeah. No, I love that. And just to tap on something you mentioned, you threw it in there, that little pro. I want to make sure people don't miss that. Hydration is key.
Yeah.
So right now on the earth, we understand the perils of smoking. So what is we force smokers to do? You can't smoke basically anywhere on earth. They have to walk to
Yeah.
go out to smoke and damage their lungs and their
Yeah.
immune system and everything of that sort. I don't want you to start smoking to walk.
No.
But if you drink and you hydrate yourself, guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to get up and go pee. All right. You're going to have to go on a regular basis. All those little steps begin to add up. They're additive and they help you out tremendously. So hydration is one of the key. I do want us to kind of to make sure we touch on a couple of things. And you mentioned sleep and stress, and we're going to touch on those as part of this rapid fire. I want to know, tell me about the relationship of how the synergistic relationship between food and our exercise. So you talked about how you felt more empowered, about talk about how the green leafy vegetables can impact us to improve our performance and about protein, that word everyone loves to talk about.
The P
Protein.
word.
Yes, yes, the big P word. Talk about those for a moment.
So, and I want to talk specifically to women right now. Do
Yes.
not be afraid of calories. I think that there has
Ooh.
been
Wait,
a
wait, wait.
long,
That's powerful. Do not be afraid of calories.
no,
Say that. All right, all right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, do not. The old adage, eat less, move more, does not work. You need to fuel your body with food. So I think a lot of women, and going back to midlife and mastering midlife, and you're getting the menopause middle and you're thinking, well, I just have to eat less, or I need to do more cardio. I would propose that first of all, take a look at what you are eating. What are you putting in your body? Many of us are probably eating more highly processed foods than we think because it's convenient, but a lot of those highly processed foods don't have the fiber. They don't have a lot of the other good things that also help your microbiome, which is a whole nother conversation. But first thing, self-reflect. What am I putting in my body? Then start to look at, what are my sources of protein? What are my sources of carbohydrate? What are my sources of healthy fat? I'm an advocate, and I know that there are a lot of longevity specialists, which I'm not claiming I am, who say low protein's good. I think for women going through midlife, I would advocate for you to try and target 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So, for me on a plant-based diet, completely, mainly whole food, I can easily get 100 to 120 grams of protein in a day. And that's how you get this. Because
put that back up there again. Don't take those guns down like that. Nah, all right, now that's what I want to see.
There's a myth that you can't build mature muscle. So you can, but you need to do it, and you need to do it in a smart fashion. So if you prioritize protein, protein has 4 calories per gram in terms of looking at, and I'll use me as an example when I share Don't Be Afraid of Calories. I can eat 2,000 calories a day. And those 2,000 calories, I first start by thinking about, what is my protein? So build my plate or my bowl around the protein. And then you have your healthy carbs, and then you have your healthy fats. You can't be afraid of healthy food, because eating less isn't necessarily going to help you lose weight, and losing subcutaneous fat isn't necessarily going to help you lose visceral fat. So losing body fat, we want to prioritize first, trying to reduce your visceral fat, trying to retain your muscle. So when the studies are coming around the GLP-1 agonist, and the fact that losing fat, you may also be losing muscle, that's a red flag for me, because I don't want women to just get skinny fat. That is not the goal. Yes. I'd rather that you intentionally lose fat slowly, perhaps gain muscle at the same time, but you need to do that by prioritizing your protein, not being afraid of carbs, by having the healthy fats, and by reducing as best possible the highly processed foods that have made it so easy for us to live in the life, the rapid stress, high stress life that we're all living today.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. I think that's powerful. I think it's important. I think people get so caught up on various aspects. And I think what you described to me is you describe more of an intentionality in your approach towards eating a whole food plant-based diet. Not a sporadic, arbitrary approach, but I'm going to be very intentional in terms of trying to make sure that, yes, I am focused. And you're absolutely right. So there are studies, and we understand that especially beyond the age of 65, that we probably at that point, for sure, there's no doubt we need to focus on our protein consumption at that point to make sure. And part of that goes into, there's multiple factors that go into that. So I think that's huge. And I don't want to miss that one key point you brought up too as well, about the power of fiber, the power of beets, the power of these vegetables to help the endothelium, which helps in terms of blood flow and vasculature, but also a fiber of actually stimulating GLP-1, right?
Yeah.
It's GLP-1. And so it's really your own natural Ozempic.
Your body makes it.
That's right. That's right. And so we have to, and it's not all or none phenomenon. There may be certain situations where certain medical therapies are indicated or undertaken, but we can't neglect the power of lifestyle. And irrespective of the medical procedure or case, you need lifestyle. You need the things that Dr. Bascom has spoken about here today to help enrich you. So tell us about how exercise is going to help improve that rest, how you rest your body. We spoke about how we feed our body, how we move our body, our mindset. How does mindset, exercise, and food help us rest our body?
So the first thing I want to make sure I say clearly is that you grow when you rest. You're not growing in the gym.
Mm.
So, movement, resistance training, you're actually breaking down muscle. And it's when you rest and you repair that you're building up new muscle and that you're growing muscle. So, exercise, whether you're like this morning, I was doing deadlifts. I love doing deadlifts because you just feel strong, but you also know that you're breaking down muscle. But in order to grow new muscle. But I also know that that movement is going to help set me up to be a little bit more tired later this evening. So I will hopefully be able to sleep better. But the need to recovery and sleep are important, and you can't deprioritize one or the other. Because you make your gains. Yes, you are challenging your body in the gym, but you're growing and gaining and rebuilding and repairing when you rest and you sleep. So that extra movement may help your sleep. I do think that in addition to, just being able to be tired, you have to be intentional about your sleep hygiene, which means to me having a time when you get up and a time when you go to bed that's consistent. You talked earlier about the fact that, being out in the sunshine for maybe 30 minutes in the morning and resetting your melatonin and, making sure that you are doing all of the positive things so that your body is physiologically primed to rest and restore. I think it all adds up.
Yes, yes. I love it. I love it. Man, I could talk about exercise and fitness and eating healthy and sleep and mindset literally all day. I absolutely love it. I think it's such powerful tools, and it's one of those things that where the old adage of not everything that counts can be counted, and so it's hard to put a hold on, especially when you go and you see your provider. But it counts so much. It
Yes.
matters so much, and so that's what I want to leave folks with today is to empower you. This is about empowering you. Women, we're talking about women, empowering you women out there, but also your men, your kids, your grandkids, your cousins, everyone that through these tools, you can be better off. Now, I do want you, Daphne, to kind of tell folks where they can follow you, where they can find you, some of the things that you're doing, because one of the things you mentioned, you talked about one of your clients that you coach. You talked about how she seemed, I'm paraphrasing here, but how basically maybe everyone around her wasn't doing what she
Mhm.
was doing.
Mhm.
And so there is a power in community. And so what you've created and what many of us have created, what Chef AJ has created is this community, this sub community that allows birds of a feather to flock together to empower you to move towards the goal that you want. And so tell people about a little bit about what you're doing, tell them how to find you and everything else, and they can learn more about mastering menopause and being the best version of themselves and getting those guns, by the way.
And if guns may not be your goal, but even if, but would love to work with any woman because I think muscle's beautiful, muscle's magic, and you're not going to get huge and bulky. And Columbus, thank you for inviting me to share this time with you. I empowering people with knowledge is key. And I think the other thing that I love about the fact that this is an intergenerational conversation because I'm hoping that the next generation will learn more and be healthier than we are today. And only by sharing this information and by giving them the tools to be healthy and make informed decisions. The way I have been blessed to do that, we're actually launching a new program, which is called the Vegan Women's Circle. And because that community is key, having a safe space where you can ask questions, where you may live in an environment or live in a community where not everyone has the same goals or
Mhm.
has the same aspirations, eats the same way, moves the same way. But when you come together and you talk to people and you fill up your cup, even if it's just a few hours a week, you go away and you can pour out and give to others. So by coming together is, in groups of women where we can talk about our heart health, our bone health, our brain health, about all of the things that are challenges from our 20s to our 90s. That is really where I'm focusing a lot of my time and effort right now. Menopause is a big part of that, but I want to make sure that we are catching women in their 20s and 30s, because that's when you set the foundation. And it's also those women that are feeding our children, they're cooking for, the woman who is at the center of the family, and you're dealing with mom, dad, sister, brother, husband, kiddos, grandpa, grandma. You can have a sphere of influence, and you can aspire to inspire other people to be healthier. And that's how we're going to keep them out of your cath lab.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Oh man, that's powerful. So they're going to find you at
Wingman Daphne on Instagram. You can
right.
email me at Daphne@TheVeganGym by email. If you go to, I'll send you a link, Vegan Women's Circle /Chef AJ. You can learn more about the Vegan Women's Circle. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, kind of. But if you look for Daphne Bascom or Wingman Daphne, you'll find me everywhere.
Love it. Daphne, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. And, for those of you out there who don't know, get selfish. Get selfish. Prioritize yourself. Team up with Daphne. Check out drbatiste.com. Oh, come on now. Yes, that's what we're talking about right there. Crush the imposter syndrome. Even I feel that at times.
I was reading it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, get your copy. It's available. It's about to transition up on Amazon soon, but right now it's on drbatiste.com. Thank you so much, Daphne, for joining. You've inspired me. I'm getting in my 20,000 steps today, not comparing myself to you, but to me.
Exactly.
For those of you out there, listen, thank you once again for tuning in to Heart to Heart. I know that this has been a transformative session. I look forward to seeing you next June. We're going to talk again a bit more, but right now we're going to savor in the moment of mastering menopause with Dr. Daphne Bascom. Thank you so much. See you next time.